Hello there, good day. So on this video, I'm going to show you how to configure the generic routing encapsulation in a virtual private network settings. Okay, so specifically this configuration will deal with a site-to-site type of VPN. Okay, so before we proceed, let me give you first an overview of a VPN. Okay, and before we proceed also, I just want you to check this prerequisite here. Okay, so this video is a supplement of the ENSA Module 8 VPN IPSec concepts. So if you have not seen this video, you better check this out before we proceed with the demonstration video. All right? Okay, so let me give you a short overview about VPN before we proceed with the demo. Okay, so basically VPNs are used to create an end-to-end private network connection over the third party, such as the internet, all right, or the extranet. So if you have two or more sites that needs to be connected, so the most economical solution to connect them is via VPN. Okay, now to implement VPN, so a gateway is necessary. So these are the gateway here, and it could be a router, a firewall, or an adaptive security appliance, or ASA. All right. Now, what are the types of VPN? So basically we have two types. All right, you have the site-to-site and the remote access VPN. Okay, so the details of this is on the ENSA discussion. All right, go ahead and check it out. So other types of VPN includes DMVPN, the SSL, GRE over IPSec, IPSec Virtual Tunnel Interface, or the VTI, and the service provider MPLS VPNs. Okay, so also on this demo we will be using the generic routing encapsulations, or GRE. So basically GRE is a basic non-secure site-to-site VPN tunneling protocol developed by Cisco. So it encapsulates a wide variety of protocol packet types inside the IP tunnels. So it creates a virtual point-to-point link to routers at remote points over an IP internetwork. Okay, so the characteristics of GRE are the following. So GRE is defined as an IETF standard. It uses the protocol 47. Okay, so to identify the GRE packets, GRE encapsulation uses a protocol type field in the GRE header to support the encapsulation of any OSI layer 3 protocols. Okay, so GRE itself is stateless. It does not include any flow control mechanism by default. So GRE does not include any strong security mechanisms to protect its payload. Okay, and GRE header together with the tunneling IP header creates at least 24 bytes of additional overhead for tunneled packets. Okay, so as what I'm saying, this video requires a knowledge or an understanding about a VPN. And if you want to see that in detail, so that is part of the playlists on ENSA. Okay, so IPSec or VPN and IPSec together with a GRE there. All right, so for the demo topology, this would be the topology that we will be using on the demonstration. Okay, so let me discuss this first. All right, so on our setup we have a 3 router configurations, so namely Firefly, you've got the ISP, and the San Telmo router. So this video will demonstrate the use of VPN using GRE on a site-to-site settings. All right, so on the Firefly network, so we use 192.168.1.0/24. First usable IP is assigned to the PC or the client, and the last usable IP serves as default gateway. Okay, same true also is with the San Telmo network using 192.168.2.0. First usable IP on the server and last usable IP on the default gateway. All right, we also have other networks here. Okay, you've got the Firefly ISP network, which is assigned with 209.165.201.0/30, and the ISP and San Telmo network, which uses 209.165.200.224. All right, so also we have here a private network. Okay, so that we assigned with 172.16.1.0/30. All right, so this would be the topology that we're going to use on the demonstration. Okay, so how do we implement GRE? Okay, so GRE implementation. So there are only a few steps. Okay, so the first one would be we need to create a tunnel interface using the interface tunnel number command. All right, so something like interface T0, interface T1. Okay, and then we are going to configure an IP address for the tunnel interface. This is normally using a private IP address. All right, so next would be to specify the tunnel source IP address, tunnel source IP address, or tunnel destination IP address. So instead of tunnel IP address or tunnel source IP address, you could use the exit interface, okay, itself. All right, and then next is you have to specify the tunnel destination, and you also have to specify the GRE tunnel mode as a tunnel interface mode. So, but then this is optional, but then I'm going to use this in the configuration. All right, next, so after the configuration, how can we verify GRE? So you can use the show IP interface brief command, okay, and see there the status of the interface. So it should be up. All right, so to verify the state of the GRE tunnel, you can also use the show interface tunnel command, or verify that OSPF adjacency has been established over the tunnel interface. You can have the show IP OSPF neighbor. So on this demo, I'll be using the OSPF, okay, as my dynamic routing protocol on the implementation of the VPN. All right, next, let's talk about troubleshooting GRE. Okay, so what are the commands that we can use to troubleshoot GRE? So you'll have show IP interface brief, show IP OSPF neighbor, and show IP route command. All right, so let's move on with the demo. So welcome to our demo. So VPN site-to-site GRE tunnel configuration. Okay, so I have prepared here my topology, and I don't have yet the configurations. Okay, so not even the IP address. So I just prepared this topology for the use, okay, today's demonstration. All right, so let's start with assigning an IP addresses to this. Okay, so let me start with the client. Okay, so Firefly client. So let us assign an IP address here. So go to desktop IP configuration. Okay, so let me assign an IP address here. So this would be 192.168. All right, so 1.1. All right, so having an subnet mask of /24. Okay, so our default gateway here is the last usable IP, so which is 192.168.1.254. All right, so we're done with the configuration of the Firefly client. Let's go ahead and click on the San Telmo server here. So let us assign an IP address on the San Telmo server. So using static. Okay, so let me just use here the assigned IP address, which is 192.168. All right, that is 2.1. First usable IP on the client. So subnet mask is /24. All right, and the default gateway. So from this given topology, we would be using the last usable IP. So which is 192.168.2.254. All right, so let's close this. So we're done with the IP assignment on the end nodes. Now let's move on the IP assignment on the intermediary devices. So let's start with the Firefly router here. All right, so click on CLI. So we have already booted up. So would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? So no. Okay. So can you see the configuration? Okay, so let's start the configuration on the Firefly router. Okay, so let me click in here and place it here on this right side. All right, so let's configure Firefly router with the IP addresses given. So configure terminal. So let's start with enable. Okay, configure terminal. So let's start assigning the host name here. Host name, this is Firefly. All right, so on the Firefly, let's view all the interfaces here. Okay, so that when we configured it, everything is showed up. All right, So let's have this. Firefly. So let's start with interface G00. All right. So the IP address is 192.168.1.254. So that's the last IP address. All right. So subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 here. Okay. And then no shutdown. Okay. So the next one on Firefly is this one, the serial 000. So interface serial 0/0/0. Okay. So IP address 209.165.201, right, .1. So subnet mask would be 255.255.255.252. All right, and then no shutdown. Okay. So next would be, let's go ahead and click on the ISP. Let's configure the IP addresses there. Okay, so CLI, no. Okay, so enable, configure terminal here. All right, and let's configure interface serial 0/0/0. This is the interface connection to the Firefly router. Okay, so let's give it an IP address. That's 209.165.201.2. All right, so 255.255.255.252, and no shutdown. Okay, now the connection going to the San Telmo router from this router 2. Okay, so and that is IP or interface serial 0/0/1. All right, so IP address, that's 209.165.200.22. What's that? 225. Okay, so 255.255.255.252 or /30. Okay, so and then no shutdown command. So we're done with the configuration for the ISP. So let's rename it. We're gonna have hostname ISP. All right, next, let's click on the San Telmo router and do the same configuration. Okay, so CLI here. All right, so now, okay, so enable, configure terminal. Let's start with the host name. I'll have here host name. This is San Telmo. All right. Okay, now let's start the configuration on the serial. So interface serial 0/0/1. Right, so IP address, you're gonna have here 209.165.200.226. That would be 255.255. Okay, 255.252, and then no shutdown command. All right, so next would be the interface G00, which is connected to the server. Okay, so IP address, that would be 192.168.2.254, the last usable IP. 255.255.255.0. All right, no shutdown. Okay, so we're done with the IP assignments on our end nodes and intermediary devices. So let's check if we have the initial connectivity. So Firefly to router, right, successful. This one, of course, is successful. It should be successful. So initial test. So sometimes we need to do this to ensure that what we're doing is correct. All right, so we have here a failure. All right, so it's just that a little bit of refresh. Okay, so you could always this option here, fast forward time. Okay, so to synchronize everything on the topology. So everything is connected now. So let's go ahead and configure the routing protocol here. So basically, so Firefly client should not be able to reach, okay, the San Telmo server here, because we have not yet configured any routing here or any routing protocol. Now, the rule of thumb on the configurations of routing protocol, if you are connected to the ISP, is that the configuration should use static or default static route going to the ISP and static route back to the organization. Okay, so let me do the configuration on Firefly. Okay, so let me configure it with the static route, okay, default static route. So that would be IP route, okay, 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0, okay, and let me use the exit interface, which is serial 0/0/0 here. All right. Next, let me do the same on my San Telmo router going to the ISP. Okay, so that would be IP route 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0, and let me use my exit interface here, which is serial 0/0/1. All right, now that we have configured the Firefly and San Telmo router, okay, so the default route to the ISP, let's go ahead on the ISP and configure it. So our configuration down to the Firefly and San Telmo should be using static route. All right, so let's start with the Firefly. Okay, so that would be IP route remote network, which is 192.168.1.0, okay, and then subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, right? That's /24 Firefly network, and our exit interface here is serial 0/0/0. Right? Next, let's do the same going to the San Telmo router this time. Okay, so that would be IP route. Okay, so that would be 192.168.2.0, 0, or subnet mask would be 255.255.255.0, and my exit interface there is serial 0/0/1. All right, so now that we're done with the configuration of the routing, so let's go ahead and check if we have the routing protocol here, or the routing table here. Okay, so go ahead and type in show IP route. Let's check, right, if our configuration gets in. So you've got 2S here to a static route. It's done. All right, so let's go to the Firefly router and check whether we have the configuration set already. Okay, so by showing do show IP route here. All right, and if you will see, okay, so you're gonna have here your static route default. Okay, so we have the default route going to the ISP from Firefly, and let's do the same on the San Telmo here. Okay, so let me go ahead and show or do show IP route here. Okay, and there you go. So we also have this. Okay, now let's test the connectivity. Earlier on, before we start with the configuration of the routing protocols here, we tried to issue a ping from the Firefly client going to the San Telmo server, and it fails. All right, so let's double click this and see if it is working now. So it is. All right, so let's do it again. Let's give it a ping from Firefly going to the server and vice versa. So let's have the return trip here. Okay, and it's working. All right, now we have not yet configured VPN here. Okay, so we just have assigned a routing using static route. Okay, basically every time we connect to the ISP, we're doing it statically. All right, so that's the rule of thumb there. So you've got your organization connected to the ISP. If you only have one or single connection, we use default route. Okay, now since this Firefly client can ping, all right, so the Firefly client can ping the San Telmo. Let's adjust this. Let's go ahead on the San Telmo. All right, and check on the command prompt. Okay, so basically we can ping using this add PDU here. So let's do it using the ping command, right? So ping, we're going to ping 192.168.2.1. Okay, so we have the reply. Now, so we all know that the packet traverses from the Firefly client going to the Firefly router, going to the ISP, San Telmo router, and the San Telmo server here. So basically, we have 4 hops here. All right. So again, from the Firefly client to the Firefly router. So that's 1. From this Firefly router going to the ISP, that's 2. From ISP going to the San Telmo, that's 3. And then from San Telmo going to the host, that's 4. So let's go ahead and check it. Okay, so we can use here the trace cert command. So trace cert 192.168.2.1. All right, so it shows here that we've got 4 hops, and we all know that it traverses on this direction. All right, now same thing also with San Telmo. Let's go ahead on San Telmo and let's try to do the trace route, okay, or tracer on Windows, okay, or on client, going to the Firefly client there. So let me do it. So tracer 192.168.1.1. Okay, so see, the link between the Firefly client and the San Telmo server traverses via the ISP. Okay, now the purpose of configuring a VPN is that, okay, so we want to create a tunnel, okay, so between the Firefly router and the San Telmo router, and we want the packet to traverse from the source to destination and vice versa using this packet, so without getting into the ISP. Okay, so after we configured the VPN here, we are expecting that the tracer issued by both clients or both ends, okay, so the Firefly client and the server should be using 3 hops only. All right, let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so from the steps presented earlier, okay, so we have 5 steps, right? So let's do it. Let's start with the Firefly here. Okay, so let's configure the Firefly router and let's create a tunnel interface. So on this topology, it's stated here that we have to create tunnel 0. You could create and use any tunnel number anyway. Okay, it could be the same, tunnel 0, but on this topology, let me use tunnel 0 and tunnel 1 on the other end. All right, so on the Firefly, step 1 is we need to create a tunnel interface or a virtual interface, tunnel 0. So that would be interface tunnel 0. You could have tunnel, the number, or interface T0. Okay, so interface tunnel 0 created, and that's up. So you don't have to issue the no shutdown command because that is a virtual interface. All right, so next is step number 2 is we need to assign an IP address on the tunnel, and that given IP address is, you're gonna have IP address here 172.16.1.1. all right, so that's last 30, so that would be 255.255.255.252. all right, so next is we need to define the source. So, and our source here is this serial 000 here, or you could make use of 209.165.201.1. okay, so let me just go ahead and use this serial 00 instead. All right, so let me go back to Firefly. So you're gonna have here tunnel, okay, tunnel source, which is serial 0/0/0, okay, and our tunnel destination, this is step number 4, tunnel destination would be the other end, so which is 209.165.200.226 or the serial 001. okay, so let me use the next hop IP address, or sorry, the IP address there, which is 209.165.200.226. all right, 209.165.200.226. all right, the optional, okay, step number 5, well, it could be in any order anyway, so I just rely it based on the steps presented on the presentation. Okay, so step number 5 there is optional, but then let me do that. So that would be tunnel mode GRE, all right, IP. So we're done. All right, so let's check the interface. So from the checking or verification, you could make use of the command do show IP interface brief to verify the status of the interfaces. So, and in this case, okay, show IP interface brief tunnel 0, all right, is up there. So we haven't configured yet the counterpart, which is tunnel 1 on the San Telmo router. All right, so let me go ahead and click on the San Telmo router here and create also a tunnel or a virtual interface like what we did on the Firefly. Okay, so to do that, so that would be interface tunnel 1 in this example. All right, and then you could make use of again tunnel mode GRE IP. This is step number 5, but as what I've said, you can use it in any order. Okay. So next would be assigning an IP address. So IP address, this is 172.16.1.2, right? So 255.255.255.252. Okay, so this one. Next, we need to specify the tunnel source. We've got tunnel source. This one is serial 0/0/1. Right, and our tunnel destination, all right, is 209.165.201.1. All right, so it says it goes the state from down to up. So it went up now. Let's do and check it. So do show IP int brief. So you'll have the tunnel there. All right, now, so we haven't yet configured the routing protocol that is with this tunnel. Okay, so still, if we run the test here, okay, so do the same command tracer, so that would still go up onto the ISP. Okay, so as what I've said, what we want here is that instead of going to the ISP, the packet should be forwarded on the tunnel, and we should be seeing here 3 hops only. Right, so let me go ahead and check it again on the server. So it's still going up there. All right, now, so let me do the routing here. Okay, so let me configure my Firefly router. Okay, so with routing protocol, so let me go ahead and type in router OSPF. All right, 1. Let's exit. All right, so configure terminal. So we're already have in there. Okay, so router OSPF 1. Okay, and then you specify the network. So that would be network, this one, which is 192.168.1.0. Okay, the Firefly network, which is directly connected to the Firefly. Okay, so that's network 192.168.1.0 /24.0.0.0.255 area 0. Okay, so the next network connected to it is this virtual network here, which is network 172.16.1.0. all right, and that would be 0.0.0.3 /30 area 0 here. All right, so you don't have to include this one because it has been configured with default route. So if you have accidentally included it in here, so the behavior of your network is not what is expected, because we are expecting here that when the tunnel is enabled, so it should traverse this on the tunnel. When the tunnel is down or having some trouble, then it should be going up there. All right, so we're done with the Firefly. Okay, so do show IP route. Let's see. We don't have yet the OSPF because we have not yet configured the San Telmo router. So let me go ahead and click on the San Telmo. All right, so let's put it here. So let's configure OSPF. So router OSPF 1. Okay, so network 192.168.2.0. all right, that would be 0.0.0.255 area 0, and the network 172.16.1.0. it's this network which is directly connected to San Telmo, right, having 0.0.0.3 area 0. So we're done. Okay, so we'll just be waiting for the synchronization. So, and it happens already. So adjacency happens here. Okay, so that means the Firefly and San Telmo router, okay, via OSPF is now up and synchronized. So there is now adjacency here, full adjacency. All right, so let's go ahead and check the routing table here. So we're seeing O now. So our do show IP route here. Okay, so if you will observe, I already have my O there. All right, and also with Firefly we should have O already here. Okay, So there. Okay. Now, so we're done with the configuration, okay, of the VPN between Firefly and San Telmo router. So what's next here is, let's go ahead and go back to the Firefly client, okay, so which earlier on, we do the tracer, and it shows that it uses 4 hops here. That means that goes to the ISP, down to the San Telmo router, and then to the server, okay. Now that the interface or the tunnel is up, okay, so let's see, let's run again the tracer command. We should be getting 3 hops only here. So that means it traverses on this area here. All right. So also, let me go ahead on the server and run the same command earlier on. So see, we have now 3 hops here. Okay. Now let me shut down. Okay. Just to demonstrate again, let me shut down tunnel. Let me shut down tunnel 1 on the San Telmo router. Okay, so let me go ahead and click on interface T1. All right, let me issue the shutdown command. So it has been detached. All right, so let's go back to the server and do the tracer again. Okay, so I guess we need to refresh this. Okay, so it's not yet refreshed. All right. Okay, so let me just finish it, and then we need to fast forward time and do it again. Request timeout. Okay, let me do it. Fast forward time here. Go back here. All right, run it again. So see, we have 4. Okay, also from the client, right? So we have 4. Okay, so you can also verify that if you want to see the simulation here. Okay, so let me do that. You've got simulation here. All right, so take note that the interface here is shut down, right? So let me check it. The interface or the tunnel interface is shut down. So let's see if the packet will traverse from Firefly going to the ISP, down to the San Telmo router, and to the server. So let me do that. I have here, add PDU here to this one, and let's see the simulation. All right, you've got your packet here, okay, Firefly. So that would move to the ISP, all right, and then from the ISP that would be forwarded to San Telmo here, and then from San Telmo that would be moved to the server. Okay, so this would become successful only if we had the reply. So that would be the reply there. Okay, send back to the ISP. All right, and then to the Firefly. Come on, all right, and to the Firefly client there. All right, so you'll have now successful. Okay, so that's it. Have a great day.